Welcome to First Unitarian Church, where our mission is to explore the eternal, nurture community, and pursue the common good. We welcome you in your brokenness and in your wholeness. No matter who you have been, who you are, or who you are becoming, we greet you today in love. I'm Reverend Diana Davies, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. Within the past year, our faith has lost several national leaders. Just this week, a key figure in Unitarian Universalist religious education, Liz Strong, has passed away. And so it is fitting to open our service with these words written by her. Today, we celebrate a dream awakening. Today we worship with renewed hope in our hearts. Today we act on an audacity of hopes and dreams for the future. Today we begin the hard work for justice, equity, and compassion in all human relations. For today is a day like no other, and it is ours to shape with vision and action. Let us worship together and celebrate a dream awakening. And our chalice lighters today are Mason Fair and Sherry Fair.
We light the chalice as a symbol of our sacred time together. The burning chalice represents the light of reason and science, the warmth of loving community, the cleansing heat of justice, and the flame of hope.
Thank you, Fair family, and happy 16th birthday to Mason Fair. And now, let us listen and sing along to Love Calls Us On by Jason Shelton. So our story today is one of my favorites. I was telling our children in our family chapel, that was at 10 o'clock, that today I'm lucky enough to be able to share my two favorite kids' stories. I shared the first, Giraffes Can't Dance, in our chapel. And today I am sharing my second with you, What Do You Do with an Idea? Written by Kobe Yamada, illustrated by May Besson. Excuse me. And published by Compendium Publishing. One day, I had an idea. Where did it come from? Why is it here? I wondered. What do you do with an idea? At first, I didn't think much of it. It seemed kind of strange and fragile. I didn't know what to do with it, so I just walked away from it. I acted like it didn't belong to me. But it followed me. I worried about what others would think. What would people say about my idea? I kept it to myself. I hid it away and didn't talk about it. I tried to act like everything was the same as it was before my idea showed up. But there was something magical about my idea. I had to admit, I felt better and happier when it was around. It wanted food. It wanted to play. Actually, it wanted a lot of attention. It grew bigger, and we became friends. I showed it to other people, even though I was afraid of what they would say. I was afraid that if people saw it, they would laugh at it. I was afraid they'd think it was silly, and many of them did. They said it was no good. They said it was too weird. They said it was a waste of time and that it would never become anything. And at first, I believed them. I actually thought about giving up on my idea. I almost listened to them. But then I realized, what do they really know? This is my idea, I thought. No one knows it like I do. And it's okay if it's different and weird and maybe a little crazy. I decided to protect it, to care for it. I fed it good food. I worked with it. I played with it. But most of all, I gave it my attention. And my idea grew and grew. And so did my love for it. I built it a new house, one with an open roof where it could look up at the stars, a place where it could be safe to dream. I liked being with my idea. It made me feel more alive, like I could do anything. It encouraged me to think big and then to think bigger. It shared its secrets with me. It showed me how to walk on my hands because, it said, it's good to have the ability to see things. I couldn't imagine my life without it. Then one day, something amazing happened. My idea changed right before my very eyes. It spread its wings, took flight, and burst into the sky. I don't know how to describe it, but it went from being here to being everywhere. It wasn't just a part of me anymore. It was now a part of everything. And then I realized what you do with an idea. You change the world. The end. Speaking of changing the world, every month we donate our offering to our Change for Change partner, and here to introduce our offering is board member Leslie Mccalla. Leslie?
Good morning. My name is Leslie Mccalla, and I serve on the Board of Trustees, the Financial Working Group, and the Accessibility and Inclusion Ministry team. And my pronouns are she and her. Every Sunday, we take an offering. All the cash and designated checks from that offering go directly to external nonprofit organizations, doing good work in our community, our Change for Change partners. This month, our Change for Change partner is Pombe Ghana. Pombe Ghana is a partnership with local communities in northern Ghana and a United States-based board of directors. First Unitarian has been a longtime supporter of this program. Together, we have built the Longum Learning Center, an innovative school for bilingual, child-centered education from pre-kindergarten to grade 6. You may wish to make a donation to our Change for Change partner using a credit card through our website. Or you can always write out a check and put it aside to mail to First Unitarian tomorrow morning. Let today's offering reflect our highest aspirations for the work of this church in the world.
Walk together, children, don't you get too weary. Walk together, children, don't you get too weary. Walk together, children, don't you get too weary. There's a great coming in the promised land. Walk together, children, don't you get too weary. Walk together, children, don't you get too weary. Walk together, children, don't you get too weary. There's a great coming in the promised land. Come together, children, don't you get too weary. Come together, children, don't you get too weary. Come together, children, don't you get too weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Sing and never tire. Sing and never tire. Sing and never tire. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Sing together, children, don't you get too weary. Together, children, don't you get too weary. Together, children, don't you get too weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Shout together, children, don't you get too weary. Shout together, children, don't you get too weary. Shout together, children, don't you get too weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Sing and never tire. Sing and never tire. Sing and never tire. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Talk together, children, don't you get too weary. Talk together, children, don't you get too weary. Sing together, children, don't you get too weary. Shout together, children, don't you get too weary. Walk together, children, don't you get too weary. Talk together, children, in the promised land. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. There's a great together, children, don't you get too weary. Together, children, in the promised land. There's a great together, children, in the promised land. There's a great together, children, in the promised land. There's a great together, keep on walking. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Keep together, children, keep on walking. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Keep on singing. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Keep on shouting. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Keep on walking. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Keep on walking. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Keep on singing. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Keep on shouting. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Keep on together, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, children, don't you get weary. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Sing and never tire. Sing and never tire. Sing and never tire. There's a great camp meeting in the promised land. Walk together, children, don't you get weary. Walk together, children, don't you get weary. Sing together, children, don't you get weary. Shout together, children, don't you get weary. Walk.
Dead Poets Society, Goodwill Hunting, Karate Kid, Stand and Deliver, To Serve with Love, The Miracle Worker. These are just a few of the dozens of movies about teachers or mentors who made a difference in their students' lives. These are all lovely stories, but we know that in real life, just one teacher, no matter how talented, no matter how committed or loving, can't completely redirect a life. Because the learning process isn't like bending metal, redirecting through a single strong intervention. It's more like weaving fabric. Teachers, mentors, parents, coaches, and many others help to set the warp, the framework, the guiding principles into which the experiences of our life, the weft in a weaving, are woven, leading to the beautiful and unique fabric of each of our lives. But you can't have a weaving with just one vertical thread, just one teacher. To set a pattern, it takes many threads. And it's the same in our spiritual development. One powerful interaction, be it an experience at Chalice Camp or an especially strong RE teacher, it may set a course, but other inputs, to extend that weaving metaphor, other vertical threads are necessary to help guide a person through in their development into a mature spirituality that offers lifelong inspiration, solace in hard times, principles for making ethical decisions, and a strong foundation that allows for limitless doubt, questioning, and exploration. If we are living to our full potential as a church, this is just what happens. Children's chapel is a thread. Children's RE classes are another. Sunday worship is another. Youth group is another. Fellowship events and holiday celebrations are another, and so on. And so are the many individuals that make up a church as we support one another in our spiritual growth. And if we've set a strong pattern, those threads hold even when a student graduates or a family moves away. I invite you to join me now in a short meditation. So please take a comfortable seat. You might want to either close your eyes or just sort of softly focus. And take a deep breath. I invite you to become aware of the things in your immediate environment, the lights, the warm air, the chair you're sitting in, the roof that you are under. And join me in saying, "For this I am grateful." And now I invite you to bring into your mind's eye a person, or maybe it's an animal in your life today, who teaches you, who makes you a better, stronger person. Once you see that person, that being, join me in saying, "For this I am grateful." And I invite you to imagine a person who made a difference in the past, who taught you a positive lesson that still guides you today. And what a blessing that that may be so many that it's hard to think of just one. And join me in saying, "For this I am grateful." And I invite you to remember an experience that made a difference in the past that moved you forward in your development. Maybe it was a summer camp, a class, an RE activity at church. And when you've thought of something, I invite you to say, "For this, I am grateful." And finally, I invite you to consider your life as a beautiful and unique tapestry woven from countless teachers and countless teachings, not yet finished, but open to new learning. For this, I am grateful. So let's take a moment to honor the memory of all those who have taught us, the people we have known and loved best, and people like the RE person that we mentioned earlier at the start, Liz Strawn, who we may not have ever met, but who influenced our life and our faith nonetheless. And I invite you to think broadly of what teaching means. Not just people that were called teachers, but again, loved ones, friends, mentors. To them, we say thank you. And still in the spirit of meditation or prayer, may we also remember those who are hurting, to whom we can offer our support and love. We send our love to Marty Richardson, who is in the hospital after surviving a head-on collision last week. We also send our love to all those who are recovering from surgeries or illness, to those who are caring for loved ones who are ill, to those who are experiencing financial difficulties, family dilemmas, and other serious life challenges. We hold all these and more in our hearts, and we commit to being those supportive threads of love in their lives. Today, may we also remember all of those who suffer because of racism and sexism and all other forms of hate, including the 8 people murdered in the Atlanta area last week. May their spirits know rest. May our spirits burn for loving justice and an end to hate. May it be so. Amen. And we have a reading, It Matters What We Believe, by Sophia Lyon Fawes, read by Sherry and Mason Fair.
It Matters What We Believe by Sophia Lyon Fawes. Some beliefs are like walled gardens. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged.
Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies.
Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days and fears of unknown calamities.
Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness.
Some beliefs are divisive, separating saved from unsaved, friends from enemies.
Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beauty the pattern.
Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction.
Other beliefs are like gateways opening wide vistas for exploration.
Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood, They blight the growth of resourcefulness.
Other beliefs nurture self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth.
Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world.
Other beliefs are pliable, like the young sapling, ever growing with the thrust of life.
Thumbs up indeed. Thank you, Fair Family, for that reading by another matriarch of Unitarian religious education, Sophia Leon Foss. So without a doubt, Come Thou Fount of Every Blessing is one of my top favorite hymns in our hymnal. Now, in the grand Unitarian tradition, the words are slightly different than the version used in most Christian churches. You know what? That suits me just fine here, because this hymn has always spoken to a deep place in me, especially the words of the second and third verses. So I did a little research on them. These two verses in particular were written by Eugene Navius. And I think the reason why these words have always called out to me is that Eugene Navius served the UUA in the religious education department for 29 years, retiring eventually as director of the department. He was a religious educator, and he spoke the language of religious education. And to me, this hymn speaks to the ultimate purpose of religious education. So I'm going to use this hymn today as kind of our guiding text as I talk with you about some of the lessons I've learned in my time as a religious educator, and as I talk with you about where I see the future of religious exploration going. I also invite you to reflect on each of these lines and see what meaning they have in your own life. So I'm going to use the text of the second verse to talk about some of what I've learned in my career as a religious educator. And I'm going to force us to all listen to this hymn a couple of times during my talk, like right now. This version is sung by the folks at the Community Church in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and their virtual choir. You know, one of the things I like best about Zoom worship is I can mute myself and you don't have to hear me belting out to that hymn. So you'll get to experience that when we're back in person. So let's take the second two verses line by line and talk about some takeaways from my past 7 years as a professional religious educator. So the first line of the second verse is, "Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come." So lift our eyes to what may come can have a couple of different meanings. I see it as an expression of hope, and I see it as an expression of change. So worship is one of the ways that we make hope real in our churches. When we worship, we're engaging in a practice where we share our collective hopes for the future. And something I've learned is how essential a strong worship life is for our children, youth, and families. Both age-appropriate worship and multi-generational full worship services, not just based around the holidays. If we are truly doing religious education and exploration, we also have to educate about worship and educate through worship. So my takeaway is that worship isn't just the central activity of the church, it's also the central activity of the religious exploration program. So now let's take a look at the other meaning of that line as an expression of change. Lift our eyes to what may come, not to what has already happened. So tradition can keep us from lifting those eyes to what may come. Now, my last church was deeply married to its tradition. It was a core part of their identity there. But times are just different now than they were decades ago. Church has a less important role in many folks' lives. The old model that was built on the backs of housewives that the church assumed could volunteer as their primary job during the week. And Sunday mornings are no longer sacrosanct. In the RE program, our biggest competition isn't other churches, it's extracurricular activities like drama and sports. And unless we embrace the times we're in and focus on relevancy, our eyes will never be lifted to focus on what may come. We have to choose relevance over tradition. Now, this doesn't mean we can't update traditions to be relevant for our age, or that every tradition is somehow inherently bad. There are beautiful traditions in our faith and at our church. My takeaway is that once our focus becomes preserving the tradition over meeting the current and future needs of our families, then our eyes have failed to see what may come. So let's take a look at the second line of the second verse. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. There are a number of things that popped up in my mind when I started to look more deeply at this line, and I want to talk to you about two of them: the importance of family ministry and the importance of space. I've long been a believer in the importance of family ministry, but religious exploration is just one component of family ministry. Family ministry is a more holistic approach. Sure, education is part of it, but so is worship, so are connections and community building. Other denominations of faiths have really been focused on family ministry for decades. And our faith over the past 5 years or so has really started to take family ministry a lot more seriously. Family ministry is no longer the future of our faith. It's the here and now, especially when families are with each other 24/7. Homes have lions dwelling with lambs, cats dwelling with dogs, monsters under the bed dwelling with aliens from outer space, and so much more. My takeaway: ministry has to speak to the whole of the family, or it won't speak to any part of it effectively. And the final point I want to make from this particular line, see the lion and the young lamb dwell together in the home, is about that final word, home. And how can we make children and youth see the church as their home? It really comes down to the people and the place. Space matters. So what would it take for our spaces to be spaces intentionally designed for children and youth that adults are sometimes allowed to use? What message would that give to families? What message would it give to our children? Usually rooms at a church are multi-purpose, which although the utilitarian in me can understand, the Unitarian in me asks how it's preventing children from seeing church as their home. Now, something that makes me genuinely very happy about One UC is how the rooms in the RE wing are clearly decorated for children at First Unitarian. But we can't just stop at the RE classroom space. Space has become even more important after our lockdown experiences. We have to remember that religious education and exploration primarily happens at home, not at the church. And that's been made even more abundantly clear over the past year. So how are we helping creating spaces for children, for religious education and faith development in folks' homes where we've never been except a computer screen? My takeaway: if spaces aren't designed for children, either physical or virtual, families won't feel truly at home. The third line is, hear the cries of war fall silent, feel our love glow like the sun. I said it before during teacher training, and I'll say it here again. The most important quality for a teacher in the RE program is not content knowledge. It's love. It's that you love and care for this generation of children and youth and want to invest your time in their lives. Love is the most important thing in a religious exploration and family ministry program. Decades from now, it's doubtful our children will remember any one particular lesson from the RE program, but they will remember the adults that they loved, that loved them, and that they could rely on when times were tough. They'll remember walking into a church where everyone loved them just the way they were, who greeted them by name, crouched down on their knees to ask of how their week was. Well, you get the idea. My takeaway is that love is the most essential quality for faith formation, and this love and acceptance is why we need church. The final line of that second verse, when we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Perhaps my most favorite line in the entire song. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Honestly, I think this has become an important part of my own personal theology just because of this hymn. But today I want to talk about the importance of service. In my dream religious exploration program, there would be 0 parents teaching, because parents would be focused on boosting their own spiritual development, getting recharged in our worship services, and building their own faith. Sure, I understand some parents love spending that time in the RE classroom with their kids, but in my ideal world, it's all non-parents teaching. That's because the religious exploration program is not a ministry by parents. It's a ministry for families. My takeaway here is that the religious education program has to be a ministry of and by the entire congregation. If we want to see our UU values more in the world, then our top priority has to be sharing and building those UU values in current and future generations. And how do we do that? Through religious exploration and family ministry. So we've taken a look at the second verse and the lessons it's shown. Now let's listen to Come Thou Fount one more time, and then we'll talk about the third verse and what it shows me about the future. Oops, sorry.
Come thou fount of every blessing, to our hearts to sing thy grace. Streams of mercy never ceasing, offer songs of honest praise. While the hope of God's perfection fills our hearts with joy and love, teach us ever to be faithful, may we still thy goodness prove. Come thou fount of every vision, lift our eyes to what may come. See the lion and the young lamb dwell together in thy home. Hear the cries of mournful silence, feel our love glow like the sun. When we all serve one another, then our heaven is begun. Come thou fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. Lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. Help us find ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. With thy aid, O fount of justice, earth be fair as heaven above.
So let's talk about that third verse of Come Thou Fount and how it points us toward the future of Unitarian Universalist religious exploration, faith development, and family ministry. Our first verse reads, Come Thou Fount of inspiration, turn our lives to higher ways. So how do we best turn our lives to higher ways? I hear this as a question of how do we teach others, even ourselves, about Unitarian Universalism and how to live a UU life in today's society. I think far and away the best way we transmit what being a Unitarian Universalist means is through mentorship over instruction, which means small groups over classes. So I want you to imagine, what would it look like if everyone in the church had a mentor and everyone had a mentee? What would it look like if every single person in the church was in at least 2 small groups? One that met regularly for years, and one that met for up to a year, so you could get to know more people. What would it look like if we modeled Unitarian Universalism in all that we do as a way to show what it means to be a UU through our regular actions and conversations? What if, in addition to having a group of pastoral visitors, we had a group of spiritual coaches there to help you coach you in living a UU life and helping you learn more about your own spirituality? We have to take a relational approach to religious exploration and faith formation. We do not live in isolation. Even in the midst of this pandemic, we have still been connected with each other. So then how can we do faith formation in isolation, just through individual study? It's easy to learn about values in private when we don't expect to live our values out loud. We have to keep moving away from a head-based, content-based approach to religious exploration and one that's focused on mentorship, showing over preaching, and pulls from the heart. A communal approach is needed for our interconnected life. The future of religious exploration is relational. The second line of our final verse is, lift our gloom and desperation, show the promise of this day. So if there's one thing I try to bring to my programs, it's joy. Joy in the office, joy in the chapels, joy in our events, joy in the hallways, joy in the classrooms. Because right now, times are pretty hard. We have to have moments of joy in our lives. And part of our job as a spiritual practice is to actively look for those moments of joy. I heard it said by many that joy is an act of resistance, but we need more than just joyful resistance. We need a pedagogy of joy, where joy is part of the entire religious exploration process. From teachers filled with joy being with their small groups, to hearing the sounds of joyful laughter roaring from the classrooms, to yes, even hearing expressions of joy in our worship services. The future of religious exploration is joy. The third line of this verse is perhaps the most telling for the future of faith development. It's, help us bind ourselves in union, help our hands tell of our love. So let's tackle that in 2 parts. The first is, quote, help bind ourselves in union. This to me reads as if it's a call for a committed, beloved community. If we see families as a unit, we need a religious education program that speaks to all members of the family and speaks to the family as a unit too. This is one reason why I'm such a proponent of a family ministry-based approach, because otherwise we just aren't focusing on the ties that bond our family units together. We have to have an integrated family ministry approach. The family ministry lens needs to be in all that we do, from pastoral care to social justice, to religious exploration, to worship, to stewardship, and all the spaces in between. This is also why I'm a proponent of seeing our classrooms more like a small group ministry as opposed to a classroom, because we learn who we are in relation to others. We learn how to love by having to practice it in a community. We learn how to apply our faith values only by seeing how our choices impact others. Learning to bind ourselves in union is the same as learning how to live in a covenanted community. In Unitarian Universalism, we make the conscious choice to bind ourselves to fellow congregants by agreeing to uphold the same covenant. Speaking of choices, let's take a look at that second half. Help our hands tell of our love. Love is a choice we make, because connections are a choice we make. Excuse me, one second. Connection is work, and it is important work. And if it's that important to you, you have to co-own it, because kids don't drive themselves to church. Kids don't log on to a Zoom account by themselves. Love is a choice we make. And it's a choice of love to be a teacher and a mentor to children or other adults whom are not your own. It's a choice of love to help mentor someone else in the church, or to help them when they least expect it and most need it. This text calls us to let our hands tell of our love, for us to put our love into action. So I ask you to reflect on, how are you putting that Unitarian Universalist love into action? How are you showing love to one another? How are you showing someone else what it truly means to love one another? We have to be the people who choose love and who choose to show our love to each other. The future of religious exploration is holistic love. So the final line of the song, with thine aid, O founts of justice, earth be fair as heaven above. So justice also needs to be at the core of our religious exploration programs for all ages, because justice is how we put our Unitarian Universalist values into practice in the world. If we don't have justice as an essential component of the religious exploration program, then we're failing to show how to live UU values in the real world. We need to be working with our children and youth to hear from them what their social justice passions are. I would love to see a program where social justice organizers meet one-on-one with children, youth, and families and have a coaching session where the social justice coach helps the youth discover what social justice passions they might have and come up with a plan on how to get engaged around the issue. And especially right now in our society, we have to make racial justice at the center of all that we do. The future of religious exploration is justice. So there you have it, a little bit more about my style, my philosophy, and what I see out there as the current and future trends with religious exploration. Our coming years together are going to be filled with exploring these trends and more as I help you come up with your dream lifespan religious exploration program. Because in the end, this is not my program, it's yours. And I can't wait to build something amazing together. So may it be. Amen. So now join us. I mentioned joy earlier. So now join us in joyfully singing, Come Sing a Song With Me.
Hey everybody, come sing a song with me. Here's our note. La. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll sing a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know you're mine. And I'll bring you home when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. A rose in the winter time. Thank you.
I cannot imagine a more joyful production of that joyful hymn. That was lovely. Everyone is invited to coffee hour, which will kick off at the top of the hour around noon. Links are in the Facebook group and our weekly emails. And if you're a newcomer, we have a newcomer orientation after the service today. And Nathan just shared the info in the chat with the meeting ID and password. Thank you, Nathan. We extinguish our chalice with these words in memory of Reverend Liz Strong. Reverently, I offer this symbol of our hope and high intent. Reverently, I bequeath this flame to you. This is the light that is lit for everyone who comes into the world. Bear this light one by one. Let the flame go from life to life till all is lit with its warmth. Tell that the light means wisdom. Tell that the light means kindness. Tell that the light means understanding. Tell that the light means tolerance. Tell that the light means sacrifice. Tell that the light is a vision of a fairer world. Tell that this is the light that is lit for everyone who comes into the world. Amen. Thank you all for being with us today. We conclude with the postlude by Thorian Adam, It'll Be a Better Day. We hope to see everyone next week or in our coffee hour. Blessings.
Which way is left? Which way is right? I'm losing my mind, staying inside. Everyone is going through it every day, every night. But I know that things will be alright. Just you wait and see. Soon we'll be out and we'll be free. Tomorrow it'll be a better day. We need to keep on loving this way. Tomorrow it'll be a better day. We gotta keep on loving today. Someday soon we'll be together until the moon sings. Tomorrow it'll be a better day. How do I keep it on the low? When the world is spinning out of control, I'm losing my patience, but the future is my motivation. Just you wait and see. Soon we'll be out and we'll be free. Tomorrow it'll be a better day. We need to keep on loving this way. Tomorrow it'll be a better day. We gotta keep on loving today. Someday soon we'll be together until the moon sings. Tomorrow it'll be a better day. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, Tomorrow it'll be a better day. We need to keep on loving this way. Tomorrow it'll be a better day. We gotta keep on loving today. Someday soon we'll be together until the moon sings. Tomorrow it will be a better day.
Be safe, be well, see you soon.